Hello, everyone. Thank you for your company once again for another episode of Hooked on Sport. This is our international edition where we cast our eye across everything going on right around the globe in the world of golf. I do it each week with Sophie Hooky, who brings all of her expertise and insight. So, hello. Massive week in international golf. Some big winners, some big losers, and maybe the end of an era with Liv.
Yeah, it has been a massive week. It was a big week for South Australia if you go forward to our other episode, but it was almost arguably even better for the international golf. There was lots of news stories, lots of records broken around the PGA and the LPGA, which I'm sure we'll touch on. So I'm very excited to get to talk to you about it, Hooky.
We do this episode thank you to the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron, our partner here at Hooked on Sport. We are getting right behind their Father's Day special. Father's Day, of course, is on September 6th. And if you haven't done anything about Father's Day yet, do not worry, because it is one phone call to the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron, who have these amazing new caterers, My Only Rival, who are bringing back brunch. Is there anything better than Sunday brunch, Soph? I think not. Well, there's one thing better than Sunday brunch, and that's Sunday brunch at the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron, overlooking their incredible marina, all of these beautiful yachts and boats moored on the pontoon down there. That is the way to celebrate Father's Day. Bacon and eggs, brekkie rolls, avocado smash, pancakes, the lot. The My Only Rival team have done a wonderful job. But on top of this, Dad gets a free coffee on the house with any main he orders, and any table of 4 or more gets, and there's only 15 of these, so be quick, but gets to take home a bottle of My Only Rival's very special homemade smoky bourbon barbecue marinade, and I reckon that's good enough reason to go and make your booking. Whatever you do, their smoky bourbon barbecue marinade would be, imagine taking that home and then doing a magnificent barbecue dinner for the old man as well. That'd be the way to do it, wouldn't it, using that smoky marinade? So you don't need to be a member. Members of the public, very welcome. And they're open Friday, Saturday and Sunday for lunch. But in particular, we're focusing in on Father's Day, Sunday, September the 6th. It's brunch, it's dad, it's family. It's the only way to do it. Spectacular sights. The price is absolutely on point. We're even making the point in our local episode, Soph, that not only do you see yachts, you can often see dolphins swimming around in there. So imagine the experience. If you've got young kids of your own, you take them to the squadron, they might spot a dolphin. That would be something pretty spectacular. So get booking with the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron for brunch. It is the only way to do it, Soph. 9 till 3 on September 6th.
Yeah, looking forward to Hooky. The promises about the dolphins, I'm half expecting if I'm down there that I'm just going to see that you've cut out a cardboard dolphin and stuck it on the fireboat. There's too many promises about having to see these dolphins, and I don't know if you're going to deliver, but you might, which is the exciting bit.
I absolutely promise you, if you book in with the squadron, you can hand feed the dolphins yourself. They're about 50 or 60 come swimming right up to the edge of the water. No, not quite like that, but yeah, I'm not making it up. They are often swimming around in there, and it is a pretty spectacular sight. I'm often reaching to get my phone and shoot a bit of video of it. So it's something pretty special. From the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron, RSAYS, to another great acronym, if you like, the BMW Championship, the old Western Open. Soph, tell us what happened.
Yeah, Wyndham Clark wins the BMW Championship after a bit of a battle, actually. He gave away a 5-shot lead to Rory McIlroy by the 11th hole, but then birdied 3 of the last 3 holes to secure the title. The first birdie of the day for Wyndham actually only coming on the 16th.
He played dreadfully. I don't know how much of you saw of the early rounds, but he was off his tucker.
Well, I thought his final interview was completely interesting because he said he felt like for the first 3 rounds, the best golfer in the history of the world, could not do anything wrong. And then he said, final round, golf completely humbled me. He realized how difficult of a sport this is. He was leaving himself in horrible positions, firm greens, what we like to see. 3-putting, actually 3-putted the first hole, and Rory McIlroy birdied the first. So already the 5-shot deficit decreased massively. And actually, the tables completely turned. When he birdied 16 and then happened to hop onto the par 5, 17, it was McIlroy who actually is probably now looking back thinking this is what could have been, because he went bunker to bunker and really gave it immediately back to Wyndham Clark and kind of just handed it over to him. So it was a bit disappointing to see from Rory McIlroy. And I think We're going to speak later on in the show when we come to live and live chats, because Rory, I think, was a bit more busy in the press conferences than he was in actually focusing on his golf, Hooky.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, and he's copped his fair share of wax, Wyndham Clark, and I mean, I don't know if I'd put him in the same category as Tiger Woods, certainly not as a golfer. And I don't know that, the trouble he's got himself into quite extends to the level that Tiger Woods has got himself into. But he's winning some big boy tournaments at the moment, Wyndham Clark. And whether we like it or not, that does cover over the sins of some of your more significant indiscretions. So not only has he won 2 US Opens, one of them at Shinnecock Hills and one of them at LACC. He's won at Quail Hollow, and now he's won at Bellerive. So these are big boy tournaments. BMW Championship, top 50 on the PGA Tour. He is starting to become he's obviously a long way short of Scotty Scheffler, and he's still a little way short of Rory McIlroy as well. But he's probably one of the top 5 players in the world at the moment, and he's going to be angling towards Golfer of the Year. Now, I think that's a bit of a, shrug your shoulders, who cares type of award. But he's a big boy player winning some big boy tournaments at the moment.
Yeah, he's a volatile character, though, in terms of, golfer, I should say. Watching his final round today is just where he faults. Like, when he's off, he's really off, Hooky. But when he's on, he does kind of have that Scotty Scheffler-esque attitude about him, where his first 3 rounds, I really did not think anyone could chase this guy down, because he was just striking the ball magnificently, putting himself in all the right spots, matching his putts pace to the line. It was incredible to watch. And then you got to the 4th round, you're like, there's still that bit about Wyndham Clark at the moment that his B game and C game is so different to his A game. Whilst if you look at someone like Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy, that difference between A game and B game is just a little bit slimmer. So Wyndham Clark winning some big boy golf tournaments, that is absolutely for sure. When he's on, he's massively on. But I'm still just worried about his B grade, C grade game, and the temperament that he seems to let out is just not, appealing for me to watch.
He's had some accusations around him historically regarding him being a bit fast and loose with the rules, if you like. I don't know if you saw a clip today, Soph, that has certainly gone viral, where he was in the rough, might have been on the 16th, I think, and 8 or 9 times he went and pressed down a different club behind the ball while he was in the rough, trying to work out, I guess, which club he wanted to use. And some people have suggested that he was doing that to improve his lie. It certainly looked like that there was probably some tamp down grass behind the ball by the time he eventually stepped up and hit the ball. But the most damning of all was the Trevor Immelman, who was the commentator for the US coverage, very clearly said, geez, taking a long time over this. He's put the club down behind the ball 8 or 9 times, at which Frank Nomolo, the co-commentator, said something to the effect of, and he might have improved his lie. Now, that's been picked up by a lot of mainstream media around the world. What did you make of that? First of all, did you see it? And if you did, what did you make of it?
Well, I think it's definitely not the 16th hole, because the 16th hole is a par 3, Hooky.
Right,
so
sorry.
I don't know if he was going off the rough off the tee and putting the club down. Maybe they have rough on tees these days, but I'm not sure. I think it was the 14th hole, but I'm really having to think about this, because the 14th hole was actually what he said was the turning point of his round. He hit a ball out of the rough, and he had to really dictate where his ball landed on the green, and he gave himself a birdie opportunity and just misread. I think it's a fine line with this kind of stuff. I think you can definitely say he's improved his lie, whether or not it was intentional. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't place my club 9 times behind the ball, but I definitely know players that do that. They've got a bit of a hovering action, and look at Charlie Hull. Charlie Hull is a massive,
Taps up and down.
Puts the club down multiple times, and you could easily say if she was in the rough, she's probably doing exactly the same action and not improving her lie. That is just part of her routine. The only thing that's interesting is I don't think that's normally part of Wyndham Clark's routine.
Correct.
So it does make it more questionable when you are starting to think, hang on a second, are you improving your backswing here?
Yeah, a part of the problem is that the PGA Tour has never been particularly strict on enforcing the rules of the sport, and players just continue to take larger and larger concessions with the way the rules are supposed to operate, and then we end up with these situations. And yeah, I do feel like we're heading towards some serious problems with the difference between the rules and the way professional golfers interpret it. I've probably been on this case before, but no, that was unfortunate once again. But yes, congratulations to Wyndham Clark, and yeah, we head off to Eastlake for the now traditional Tour Championship next week. The last 30 left. Actually, Sophie, here was something interesting, I thought. So we'll have 30 players playing another 72-hole stroke play event. And someone said, what if you did, and I just saw this on social media, what if you did the top 32 players, but they played match play all the way through the week from 32 down to 2? And I thought that was interesting. So if you took 1 through 32 in the FedEx Cup right now, Scheffler would play JT Poston. So, but there's some really interesting matches. Tommy Fleetwood would meet Alex Fitzpatrick. Siwoo Kim would meet Adam Scott. Xander Schauffele would play Min Woo. I reckon that would be really interesting. Cameron Young would play Tom Kim. Wyndham Clark would play Ryan Fox, so the US Open winner would play the Open Championship winner. Colin Morikawa versus Victor Hovland. Chris Goddard versus Justin Rose. And I do think to myself, I know that the PGA Tour is averse to it. They've been very much focused on stroke play because they can pretty much guarantee when a tournament is going to end, and that there should be more than 2 balls in the air at any one time, you know. But I do think a match play finish would have some appeal. I'd certainly love to watch those matches early in the week, whereas Thursday can be a bit of a snooze fest at the Tour Championship at times. Anyway, a topic of discussion for another time, perhaps. Let me just give you a quick overview of what happened at LIV, the final tournament of the year. This was LIV Indianapolis. The good news was that Michael Assasso, who on his first year on the LIV Tour had a win for the High Flyers. You could tell how much it meant to him. He made a really classy up and down for birdie on the par 5 last hole at Indianapolis to Chatham Hills, I think the course is called, to beat John Rahm by a stroke. He was very, very excited, and justifiably so. He took a big gamble to join Phil Mickelson at the High Flyers, and you might have argued that looked pretty sick when he was really struggling with his own form and Phil Mickelson was nowhere to be seen. The team's championship, on the other hand, was won by Legion 13. So John Rahm had an excellent round coming home, and the other 2 Spaniards it's Tom McKibben, Jose Ballester, and why can't I think of the most important one, the big bearded Englishman?
Tyrrell Hatton.
I'm glad you're here, Soph. I don't know if you saw Tyrrell Hatton's reaction, but he could not wait to get off the stage. And we'll probably talk about this more a bit later on. But Tyrrell Hatton, his walk-up music to start the tournament was "I Want to Break Free" by Queen. So you can tell just by his actions that he is clearly checked out of this format of the game. It'd be interesting to see where he goes. Cam Smith started so well, hit every fairway on day 1. By day 4, he was snapping his driver and throwing it into the creek. So he shot 2 over on his final round. The Ripper GC guys, who are obviously very talented and successful at the LIV level, finished 3rd in the team's championship overall. But yeah, it just felt like we were watching in front of ourselves a sporting competition saying sayonara. I thought there were some interesting comments from Bryson DeChambeau earlier in the week, and it's just difficult to see. We're going to know more in the next few days, I suppose, but it's going to be very, very difficult to see how they can pull it together from where they're at with the lawsuits coming, as you've identified, and the potential for players to be walking out. And there's going to be a lot less money around.
100%. It's going to be very interesting where LIV goes.
It will. We might talk about that a little bit more later on. I'll just run through the DP World Tour. It was the Next O Championship, which is at Trump International Golf Links in Scotland. A local, Scott Jameson, was a 2-stroke winner, a 42-year-old who's gone 14 years without a win in the professional game. So his last win was in December 2012 back there in South Africa. He birdied 7, 8, 10, and 11. then had a bogey on 13 while Matthew Jordan birdied 12 to bring the gap back to 1. But then Jamison birdied 14, Jordan bogeyed 17 to make the lead 3 going down the last. I think Jordan birdied the last, so it was a 2-stroke win in the end. But it was a massive win for Scott Jamieson to win a local tournament for him. Andy Sullivan, he continues his resurgence with 3rd. And he moves up to 8 in the race to Dubai. And who knows? You know, he's come from the depth of despair and could very well be back on the US PGA Tour very soon. So Scott Jamieson, I think, has moved up to around about 43, went from about 160 to 43 in the race to Dubai. So, and he's got a job for the next 2 years because he'll get the 2-year exemption. A little bit disappointing for Jack Buchanan. It's another miscut for him. I think he's around about 168 in the race to Dubai. Got to be top 100 to keep your card. So he's got a bit of work to do. He's guaranteed to start in the British Masters next week, but he's not yet guaranteed into the European Masters. I never really know how this works, but it looks like he's going to need 12 or 13 to pull out to get in there, Soph. So unless, of course, he has a great week next week. But I certainly feel like he needs to get moving or we could be heading back to qualifying school at the end of the year. That's the men's caper. Tell us what happened on the LPGA.
Miyu Yamashita held the lead from day dot at the CPKC Women's Open. That's the Canadian Open for the women. This actually makes it her 4th win in only 42 starts on the LPGA, making her the fastest Japanese player to ever get to 4 wins on the LPGA. I mean, she has 13 wins on the Japanese LPGA, so she's not new to winning by any means. She opened with a course record 62, and all her rounds ended up in being in the 60s. She was completely a birdie machine. She admitted she was a little bit nervous, but she didn't look nervous at all in that final round. There's actually at the moment on Instagram, which I went back to and had a look at it again, on the 5th hole of the day, she had this downhill lie with about a 9-iron pitching wedge in and just played it completely perfectly. The commentators were making it sound like it was all doom and gloom, and she just whacked it to 5 foot and putted it in like nothing had even she didn't even contemplate that this could be a hard shot. Few other records which are really cool to see. Aphrodite Dang was bogey-free round 63 on the 3rd round to give her the record for the lowest 54-hole round by any amateur. She had 200 strokes, only 200 strokes, and an incredible, incredible achievement. She did struggle a little bit on the 4th round. When I say she struggled, I think she still made a top 10, so it's really not that much of a struggle for an amateur. Other thing that I found really entertaining, and I think it's a bit of a talking point at the moment in women's golf. I know
This is good.
the Royal Adelaide ladies are often talking about slow play, and you've got signs everywhere over ladies' locker rooms giving you, hints on how to quicken up pace of play, playing as a 4-ball, make sure to walk off to the tee block and 2 putt out and et cetera, et cetera. And often, I don't know, if I'm with my girlfriends, I often like a little bit of a chat, and I'm getting told, stop chatting. You can chat on the 19th hole. But Jennifer Chang has recorded the unofficial fastest LPGA round of 2 hours and 19 minutes. And the footage is hilarious. You can see her running down the fairways, and she's just told her caddy to keep on up with her and said, come on, we can at least get one kind of record for this LPGA tournament.
Oh, fantastic. What about the Aussies?
Aussies, Robin Choi is actually having an outstanding season on the LPGA. She finished T17, Grace Kim T23, Karis Davidson T37, and Cassie Porter with a T44. Hannah Green, Minjee Lee, Steph Kiriaki, and Gabby Ruffles all missed the cut. It's about time that they'll be almost thinking about heading home pretty soon. The LPGA season is about to wrap up. The Solheim Cup is about to get going. I don't know. I feel like these girls kind of need a bit of a break, Hooky. Something's going on. They need to come home and see their coaches a little bit.
But they'll have to head back, won't they? Because certainly Hannah Green will be right in the thick of it for Tour Championship Race to the Globe.
Yes, she will be.
So yeah, there's a bit of a funk going on amongst the Aussies, and it's concerning because for Steph Kiriakou, it's been. Well, it almost started here at the Australian Open in March, and it seems to have drifted right into the second half of the year. So, there are some challenges for her to work out, that's for sure. Where are we at with this Solheim Cup?
Solheim Cup, well, the final US spots for the Solheim Cup was decided on the standings. Alison Capruz got the 7th spot. Now, probably by the time that this is released, the captain will have made her picks, but at the moment, as we're speaking, the captain is yet to make her picks, and it's kind of a live stream that I keep refreshing on my Instagram page to see what is going to go down. I'm very curious to see who the US pick. There's obviously a big pool of players that she could choose from. And it'll be very interesting. It's interesting as well because unlike the men, I find Europe and USA kind of get released at a very similar time. But here, Europe's team's been out for about 2 weeks, so the US already know who they'll be playing, and whether or not that will play into the captain's decision as who she wants as her captain picks. It'll be interesting to see, Hooky.
What about the Epson Tour, where we've got a bit of a local interest this week, Soph?
We definitely did have a local interest. Caitlin Pearce had a first round 63 with 10 birdies and 1 bogey on her scorecard. She was hitting the ball exceptionally. She even spoke about how it was pretty routine, pretty mechanic. It wasn't like she was doing anything incredible. She was hitting green, putting it to 10 foot and dropping the birdie in, which to me sounds quite incredible. She was leading after day 2, but she did drop back to finish T10 on -14, which ended up being 5 back from Megan Garnay, who won the Wild Horse Classic on the Epson Tour in a playoff. It took her 2 holes to do it. She's a Stanford player. People might know her because she was a teammate of Rosang, and she seems to be following directly in her steps. Pretty cool to see, though. She was actually T32 after round 1 and then had a 9 under round, which is her lowest pro round to date, to then shoot her up to 5th. And then to find herself in the lead, tie for the lead after the 54 holes, a pretty incredible experience for Megan Garnay. That also booted her up to 15th on the race for a card. And unfortunately, Caitlin is still currently sitting 24, and I don't know if there's enough tournaments to her make up the ground to hit top 15 and get a card into the LPGA.
Yeah, well, look, we can only cross our fingers for her. There are a couple of events left, so yeah, she just needs the breakout. I was only looking at some messages about Caitlin. There are a lot of people who think that she is maybe the most talented player on that Epsom Tour, and they only just need one good weekend, just to win at the right time, and suddenly it all opens up. So yeah, we are right behind Caitlin Pearce as she continues to pursue that LPGA Tour card. So if I think it is worth just I've had a couple of my thoughts on Liv, but I just would be interested in where you think we're at with Liv now that the final tournament is over. They merged the final individual stroke round championship with the team's championship. The team's championship went from being something that was going to be played as a finale with a build-up right across the year. It turned out it was just going to be whoever had the best aggregate score for the week. Bizarre stuff to make such wholesale changes to your tour on the fly. We understand that they're running out of cash. Now that it's all run and won, what are you expecting to see in the coming days and weeks?
Well, I'm expecting to see quite a few players finally making that call, and we're going to see, there's so many rumours about what Jon Rahm is going to do, Bryson DeChambeau, Tyrrell Hatton, obviously, with his walk-up song makes it sound like he's thinking about jumping ship at the moment. PGA players are definitely talking about it. I'm sure our listeners heard Rory talking about it, saying, I think, quote unquote, he asked whether or not the LIV players would bring value back to the PGA, and he questioned whether or not that even brought any value to LIV. Scotty has taken a more probably pragmatic approach and said he wants the best players on the PGA Tour, and I would think that means he wants Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm, Tyrrell Hatton, all those players back on the PGA, and he wants to give the best product that he can to spectators, and I tend to sit exactly in the same boat as Scotty. I would like to see those players back and playing against all the world's best. But I just don't think LIV's CEO, Scott O'Neill, is really giving these players any sort of, solid plans on what LIV looks like in the next year. I think there will be reason for them to.
Yeah, well, look, it all remains to be seen, but they have got nuclear bombs coming at them from everywhere, and yeah, I think if bankruptcy is probably going to be the final straw, because everyone is going to see that the vendors they haven't paid, and Scott O'Neill was trying to suggest that we're doing the best we can, but it seems like they've done absolutely everything they can to ensure that all of their players, who are already extraordinarily wealthy, are very well funded, remunerated, and the vendors who are working class people, if they're going to get stiffed, I think that's just going to be very, very difficult for any of the goodwill that they may still have. I feel like that evaporates. So yeah, I guess we'll be watching with interest. It's going to be a great shame for us, Soph, because if you go back, let's say 5 years, just coming out of COVID, and the Australian Open was historically at its lowest ebb. So they'd merged the men and the women's event that copped a lot of criticism from a lot of people around the place, unfairly so, I think, but it really was struggling for prize money. It was struggling for a good field. Australians almost were sort of suggesting that they were doing the Australian Tour a favour by coming back for the Australian Open. Liv, I really felt like kicked Golf Australia in the backside and said, if you are serious about running your own competitive professional golf tournament, you are going to have to do it a heck of a lot better than what you were doing. And there was obviously some tension between Liv and Golf Australia when Liv first arrived, but the Australian Open is way, way better for Liv's arrival. And I think there are a lot of things in Australian golf that are way, way better for Liv's arrival. It's been in part a great inspiration for people to pick up and play the game because it has been so accessible for them, what Liv has been able to provide. So, yeah, if this is the end, and I can understand for a number of reasons why it is, but I am going to be very, very upset for not so much the players. You know, they've done very well out of it, but I'm upset for the people who, in particular here in Adelaide, Nick Haslam and his team, who have done so much to make the Adelaide version of Liv this incredible success. I commend the people at Grange who have gone out of their way to hand over their course and present it in such an incredible fashion for the 4 years that they did. I would have loved to have seen the event at Kooyonga. It would have been interesting because Kooyonga, you know, a classic golf course that really isn't the ballpark suitable for professional men's golf anymore. But that would have been interesting to see. And then, of course, it would have been interesting to see it North Adelaide. And this all may still play out. I accept that. But I suspect there is too many insurmountable hurdles now, and that's probably going to be the last of it. And I will always be grateful that it came to Adelaide and put professional golf here in this town on the map, and a lot of people have come along for the ride.
Yeah, completely agree. And you spoke about how you think Liv has maybe awoken Golf Australia. Well, Liv awoken PGA. I don't think we would have had Rory McIlroy returning for the Aussie Open last year, and this year again, I think it's put Australia on the map for a lot of those professional golfers. It's made the PGA realise that there is a market outside of the US, and it's a very desperate, in need market. I think Liv's done a lot for the game. I think it'll be very disappointing if it doesn't come back to Adelaide, if it ceases to exist. I know a lot of friends who picked up golf because of Liv, and they're going to be incredibly disappointed not to go to Kooyonga and watch it in 2027, if that is the case. But it'll be interesting to see. It's still pretty up in the air, Hooky. We don't really know. There's different reports coming out every single day, really. So we'll just have to watch this space.
Talking about one of those people who picked up golf because of Liv is a good friend of mine who I know you've caught up with a couple of times, Adam Haygreen. And Adam has put his hand up to join us on our little public golf tour on Friday afternoons throughout September. I did get a message as well. Mawson Lakes have invited us, would love to have us come and play up there. Got a lovely couple of messages. I have heard you, Mawson Lakes, and Sophie and I will make sure that is on our agenda across the next couple of months, that's for sure. So before we wrap it up, interesting story that came out only in the last couple of days. So a YouTube crowd called Good, who have been very, very successful with creating content, video content on YouTube, certainly far more expeditious than us with using YouTube and showing vision of them playing holes and all of those sorts of things. But they've got in bed with Callaway and produced an ad that has come in for a lot of criticism. It's now been deleted from all of their platforms, but it essentially was a couple of boys standing around and a young girl went to grab one of the boys' drivers out of his bag, at which point he made this fast run at the young girl, gives her a hip and shoulder, knocks her to the ground, and then stands over her and says, "Don't touch my driver," in this sort of menacing tone. For understandable reasons, it's been deleted. Obviously, the connotations around violence towards women were too obvious to ignore. They've put what I would probably regard as a fairly half-hearted apology together and put that on their platforms. But, as someone, a woman in what's traditionally been a men's game like golf, I was just interested in your thoughts on how it all played out.
Well, when I first saw it, I only read about the news reports and I hadn't actually seen the video at that point. And I did have the question of, was it really that aggressive? But when you do watch the video, and the video is definitely still out there, so the listeners can easily find
Find it,
access
yeah.
to it. It's even the camera angle. The camera angle is actually from the female's point of view, looking up at a man standing over her. And I did make this argument, even if it was, a kid or a younger boy or a little boy, would still come across really aggressive and really inappropriate. I was actually shocked that the good guys even thought at all to make a campaign like that. It's completely inappropriate. They're all normally about inclusivity. They actually do a lot of things on their YouTube channel with female professional golfers. I do not think it was the intention for it to come across as not an advocate, but like to come across as quite domestic violence towards women. I do not think it was their intention, but I was just incredibly shocked that they didn't have the foresight to think, hang on a second, this is so aggressive and we're trying to promote inclusivity. And this is actually everything that's wrong with women coming into the game and why women are so intimidated is, big groups of men watching them play golf and belittling them and thinking less of them because, they don't hit their driver as far. And it was completely against what I would have thought Callaway and Good would want to be promoting.
And it sort of goes against the grain of how human nature rolls. I mean, if I had a new driver, I'd love it if you pulled it out and, had a little bit of a play around with it. That's sort of the whole point, don't we? It's like a cricket bat. Someone's got a new cricket bat. Everyone wants to get a bit of a feel for it. So it's sort of, I understand they're trying to be maybe a little bit edgy, but this was just unbecoming, unseemly, unnecessary, unfortunate. And yeah, they'll pay a bit of a price for it. I don't think it's, career ending or anything like that, but it's the sort of stuff that someone should have worked out very quickly was inappropriate. And it's remarkable that no one did. And I'm pleased to hear, from your perspective that you felt what I was probably thinking as well, even though I don't quite have the same perspective as you. But unfortunate. And yeah, I'd like to think that they might strengthen their apology at some point in the next coming days as well. So
yeah, the apology wasn't that great. It was a bit half-assed, wasn't it? It was a bit wishy-washy. It was just a acknowledgement of wasn't very good, we'll take it down kind of vibe, not an actual accountability for what they'd posted. Because, I mean, you have a young daughter. If your young daughter was watching that promotion for Callaway, I think she'd want to step nowhere near a golf course and would actually be quite scared about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone sort of sees that this is a true reality of what it's like to walk onto a golf course, but that whole environment of men are going to be alphas and dominate you, and don't step on our territory, otherwise we're going to physically attack you. It was a terrible look. Anyhow, that's enough for us for this week. Soph, always enjoy your expertise and insight. We'll do it all again next week. And in the meantime, we will get our diaries together and we'll start to look at the Fridays throughout September that we can pick off, play a couple of holes of public courses. So we're talking about Regency, North Haven, Seacliff, Mawson Lakes is on the list. I wouldn't mind getting up to Highcombe as well. Even if we get motivated, we might scream out and play 9 holes at Kapunda as well. So if you need to show me around, love to see all of those places. Thanks for your company, everyone. Thank you to you, Sophie Hilditch. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks so much, Hooky. See you later.